Hello and welcome, seniors of 2020. My name is Pastor Ben Meller, and I will welcome you to the booming metropolis that is Bumpville, PA. The purpose of this video, what me and some others want to accomplish in this video, is 1, to give you hope, 2, to encourage you, and 3, to just give you sound wisdom that's good for decision making. Because number 1, without the pandemic and without the uncertainty of the economy, you have lots of decisions to make right now in your life about what career you're going to do and pursue, college. Some of you have already made these decisions, but now you have a lot of work to go through. Some of the uncertainty might be over what, especially now with the economy, is what to do for a summer job to make a little extra money, or when you get into college jobs, because if you can't do college on campus, you won't be able to maybe pick up a job on campus. And so you're dealing with those things. And what me and my friends would like to do is just help you, maybe give you just some advice to help you with your decision making at this time. I want to start, though, and read a verse from Psalms 19, verse 1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. After all, if we're going to get good advice and hope for the future, it ought to come from the God who made you. And he made this world, and the world around us in creation speaks to his goodness. So I'm going to invite you today, even though most of you are probably inside watching this on your computer, I'm going to invite you to make the outdoors your classroom today. And the second verse I'd like to share from you from 19 is verse 7. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. It's God's word that is where we find this wisdom, this hope for the future, and this truth about God and who we are in the world around us. And so I invite you in this video to make God's word our textbook as we go about in our journey today. So just real briefly, some of the guys who are going to be speaking today, the first one will be Luke Tice, and he is a senior at Northeast Bradford, just graduated, just like many of you. So he sees life like you see it, from the perspective that you see, and so he's going to talk from that perspective to you. We're going to also have Micah Russell, or some of you know him as Mr. Russell. He is a science teacher at Northeast Bradford, and so he's seen many of you, or some of you at least, that have gone to Northeast growing up and learning through the years, and has helped you. And so he understands, he has that perspective of a teacher and seeing kids grow and then accomplish graduation. And then there's Pastor Seth Macaluso, the pastor at Neath, and he has a unique perspective too of being actually somebody new to our area, growing up someplace else and only being here for the last few years. So he has a unique outsider's look into what would be good decision making, as well as myself, and many of you know that I'm an official as well. And so I also bring that, along with being a pastor, that unique perspective to your life and student athletes and the decision making that goes on there. And then there's, I call them our sages. I don't know if they would like that term much. It makes them think they're old or something. But Pastor David Pitcher of West Ward, and Pastor Vieldhouse, who was my pastor growing up. And he actually grew up in the area in Wailusi. And so he has that perspective of being around for a long time, being in your shoes, making those decisions and seeing where life ends and seeing other people grow up and the decisions they made. And so I highly encourage you not to just say, well, there's an older guy, what does he know? No. He knows where the end of many of the decisions lead. He knows where the paths that we choose in life go, because he's been there, done that, seen others do it, and experienced. So please take your time to listen to him. And there's Pastor Pitcher, who is not only a pastor now, but used to be a teacher in the Christian school system. So he also brings a little different perspective to life and the decision making and the difficulties that face students today. And so I just really encourage you to just take your time and listen to these men and their experience and the truth that they have found to be helpful and guide their lives, and the truth that is beyond even our ability to know, because it is from God. And so, without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Luke Tice.
Hello to the graduating class of 2020. My name's Luke Tice. I'm a senior at Northeast Bradford, graduating this year. And to be honest, it's an interesting time of life, especially this year. It's a unique time, and it's a critical time in life, but it's an odd time to be alive with all the circumstances that we're facing today. But I think one thing, for me in particular, that's significant about this time is that for me personally, and I imagine for many of you seniors, is that there's a lot of pressure. Pressure even from people who I would consider to be very close friends of mine. And that's okay. But there's also pressure from the world. Pressure to go to college, pressure to get a high-paying job because for whatever reason we think that that would buy satisfaction in life. And I'm speaking the truth when I'm saying that simply isn't true. That the reality that receiving a high-paying salary will lead to true satisfaction and ultimate happiness, it's simply not true. But really, true contentment and ultimate satisfaction in life, both on this earth and in eternity, relies in God. And that is where His gospel comes into play. You see, the situation is this, is that God created us, and He designed us to glorify and serve Him. We have been uniquely and wonderfully and fearfully made by an ultimate creator. But we chose to rebel. What I mean by that is this, is that we chose to turn from God in attempting to live our own way and without Him, despite the fact that He is the creator of life in and of itself, and He knows exactly how it's supposed to work, and exactly what true satisfaction is. Yet we as sinful human beings, we have fallen, and we've rebelled from God, trying to be like Him, and yet rebelled from Him and decided or thought in our minds that we knew better. And this is not the reality. But the story doesn't end there. You see, we decided to disobey God, and therefore, because we did that, we can no longer enjoy God, not only here on this earth, but also in eternity. Because God's standard is perfection. He's a loving and He's a merciful God, but He's also holy. He's also just. God cannot allow sinners into heaven because He's holy, He's righteous, He's perfect, He is flawless. And for all of us, the Bible says that for all have sinned and fallen short of God's glory. For all of us, that's bad news. Because nobody on this earth is perfect. Absolutely nobody is righteous. But praise the Lord that His love didn't stop at creating us. The reality is this, is that God created us and we rebelled. Yet God faithfully and relentlessly pursued us in His love. The Bible says that God is love, and we know that He cares for us. And He cares for us so much that despite the fact that we were in a helpless situation, we've fallen from God, and now we need that sin debt. Because we have rebelled against God, we cannot enter heaven and we cannot enjoy Him, so somebody had to pay that price that we broke with God. And that's where God sent His only Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, to come down on this earth and pay the debt. Essentially, in a court case, we would be found guilty. But Jesus comes in as the Son of God and pays our debt. And so now, if we choose to follow Him, if we surrender our lives to Him, if we trust in who He is for true life, both satisfactory life here on earth and true life in heaven, then we will be saved. If we call on the Lord Jesus Christ as our Savior, as our God, and trust that He did die for us and that He is the resurrected Lord, and we follow Him, we will be saved. And that's good news, because that's what we need. And God is the ultimate source of true life and true satisfaction. And we need Him so bad, and He is made that way because His love is relentless and it is so endless. And that is the good news of the gospel.
Hi, my name's Seth. I'm the pastor at Neath Church, and I just wanted to share a brief message for our graduates of 2020. I want to say first off, congratulations. I know that you've been through a lot. You've had a lot of things that most graduating classes get to do of celebrating with friends and family kind of taken away from you, and you've also been thrown a sort of a curveball for your last few months of formal learning in that setting. And so I just want to say that we've been praying for you, and we're thrilled for you as you've made it through and graduated, whether that be high school graduates or college graduates. Just want to say congratulations, good job, well done, we're happy for you. And I just want to give you a brief word of encouragement here. The longer that I live, and through that, the more that I learn, the more I realize how little I know. And so one thing that I cling to throughout my life in general is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, and that says this: "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." And this is a beautiful reminder that we're to trust in the Lord wholeheartedly, with our whole hearts, our entire heart, and to recognize that that means that when things don't seem to be going the way that we want them to be going, when we're struggling in the middle of difficult times, difficult circumstances and situations, we're trusting that God is still at work, he's still in charge, he's still in control, and he's still at work in the midst of the circumstances where I seem so helpless, or where things seem to be so hopeless. And so it's trust in the Lord, and even when times are difficult, and leaning not on our own understanding. That takes humility. And like I said, the longer I live, the more I realize how little I actually do know, and how much I need to not lean on my understanding, because so many of the times I'm wrong. And so I just want to just impress upon you the wisdom of humbling yourself and recognizing that, hey, I don't know it all. I need to not rely on my understanding, but understand that God's understanding, Scripture tells us God's understanding is unsearchable. His ways are far above any of man's ways. And so we're to recognize that and to look to God. That means if I'm not leaning on my understanding, I'm looking to God. When I'm facing a difficult decision, or a circumstance that is difficult, or just any decision, really, I'm not just relying on myself to make that decision, but I'm relying on God. I'm asking God, what would you want me to do? And then there's a beautiful promise that he will direct our paths if we lean on him, if we trust in him with our whole heart, and if we don't rely on our own understanding. That means that we're relying on God and looking to God instead and seeking God's will. Then he will direct our paths. He will guide us and direct us and give us guidance as to what he would have us to do. And I'll tell you, life is much better when we're following what God wants instead of what we want for our lives. So listen, we love you, graduates. We're happy for you, and I pray for you, and we'll be praying for you. And just as you enter the next chapter of your lives, take Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 with you. And maybe it's a passage that you want to commit to memory so that you can have it with you as you live out the next chapter of your life. So let me close by just praying for you right now. Father in heaven, I lift up all of our 2020 graduates to you, and I just thank you for them. I just pray for them as they face this next chapter of life, and I just pray that you would help them, Lord, to trust you with all of their heart and to acknowledge you in all of their ways, Lord. And that means that they're acknowledging, Lord, that you're in control. They're acknowledging you, and I just pray that you would help them to do that and to not rely on their own understanding, but to look to you. And I thank you that you will guide them and direct them as they look to you. I just pray your blessing on them now, in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Congratulations, class of 2020. You did it. I'm very proud of you. It's a big deal to complete 13 years of school. That's a long time. It's a big deal to finish, global pandemic. It's a big deal to graduate during a pandemic. So I'm very proud of you guys. Congratulations. I'm going to talk to you guys about two things tonight. I want to challenge you with one thing. The challenge is this. I want you to read this book. This is called the Bible. And it's a big book, so I want to challenge you more specifically to read the book of John. It's 21 chapters. You can do this, the book of John. It's changing my life, and I challenge you to read the book of John. The two things I want to talk to you about are freedom and who you are, your identity. First, I want to tell you this. When I graduated, when I was in your stage of life, I thought, man, this is great. I'm finally going to be free. I won't have to do the assignments my teachers tell me to because they're not my teachers anymore. And oddly enough, I had some of the same teachers that you have. And that's weird because they can't possibly be old enough to do that, but somehow they have a time machine there or something, and they're still teaching there, even though they're so young. And I'm like, I'm gonna be out of the house. I grew up on a dairy farm. I was like, I don't have to milk cows anymore. I don't have to do what my parents say anymore. I can be my own person. I can do whatever I want. I'll finally be free. And I was really excited. So I went off to college, and when I got there, I'm like, we got to pick a major. You can't just do college you got to have a major, and I had no clue what I wanted to do. And a big part of that is I didn't know who I was. So I'm like, I'll be a psych major. Then I'll figure out what's wrong with me, what's going on with my life, and who I am. And those two ideas are important ideas, really important ideas. And God talks with those two ideas. So I want to just share with you what he says about them, because my ideas about them are not as important as his. He says in the book of John, which I challenge you to read, he says this, Jesus says, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So the first part, if you hold to my teaching, if you grab onto what I say, you'll be free. You'll know the truth, and you'll be free. Now here's the thing. In my mind, I was like, if I just do whatever I want, I will be free. And it doesn't work like that, because you have to follow someone. In my mind, it's like, I'm not following anybody. I'm just going to do what I want to do. I'll follow me. I'll do whatever I want to do. Yet I was still following somebody. I was following myself. And some people follow other people's ideas, but you will follow something. I follow something. And the thing or the ideas you follow can either lead to freedom or to bondage and destruction. Jesus says, hey, if you cling to what I say, if you do things my way, you'll have the truth. And the truth will set you free. You'll be free in a way you can't even imagine freedom. Wonderful, glorious freedom that doesn't last just for this life, but for eternity, forever and ever and ever. That's a big deal. Secondly, it says, if you hold to my teachings, you'll really be my disciples. You'll really have identity. In our culture, we have this idea that identity is achieved, not received. And here's what I mean by that. We think, well, what I do will determine who I am. If I get a big paying job, or if I get a sweet truck, or if I'm in a great, awesome relationship, or if I can buy certain things, or wear certain clothes, or hang out with a certain group of people, then I'm important. Then I have a real identity. Or I can just say who I am. I can just say, I'm this person, I'm that person. I can just choose who I am. And in reality, it doesn't actually work like that. We don't achieve our identity by doing or believing certain things. We received it. So imagine this. What if we didn't poof into this world from nothing? What if me and you and all these trees and things you see around me, what if they didn't poof from nothing, but they were made by a really wise, intelligent, all-powerful being we call God? What if he made you and he really, really loves you? What if we said, no, God, I don't want to do things your way. I want to go and do things my way, and we've left this God? What if this God says, oh, I still love you, I still care about you, you're mine, I made you, that's your identity. I love you, I made you, I'm going to pursue you. And God himself came to this world and lived the life that you and I were meant to live with God, enjoying him fully. He lived that life and then died the death we deserve to die for rejecting that God. He says, I'll take your place, I'll redeem you, I'll buy you back. You can have me. What if that was true? What if you could have freedom in him? What if you could really know who you were? Because remember, please remember, your identity is not achieved by what you do. It's received. It's given to you. Please remember that freedom, real freedom, is from following the truth. God says, I am the way. I am the truth and the life. Follow me. So I challenge you guys to read the book of John. We really love you guys. God bless.
Hey there, seniors. Pastor Ben Miller again from Bumpville Bible Church. What I want to take my time to talk to you about today is stewardship, the principle of stewardship. So what is stewardship? I think Jesus illustrates this very good in a parable he tells in Matthew 25. Jesus talks about a master who has a large estate and he's going away. So he calls 3 of his servants in and he entrusts his estate to them in the form of money or talents. Talent is a form of money. So to the first servant, he gives 5 talents. To the second servant, he gives 2 talents. And to the third servant, he gives 1 talent. And then the master goes away. Now the first 2 servants, they invest their money. They're where we get the term good stewards, because they're taking care of somebody else's property. So they invest it wisely, they use it, they work it, they take care of it. and they both end up doubling what they have. So the one now instead of 5 has 10, the other one instead of 2 now has 4. Now the third servant, he takes his talent or his sum of money, and he goes and he buries it in the ground, and he leaves it there. And then finally, after his journey, the master comes back, and the master's servants come before him with his property that he gave them. And the first 2 servants come and say, Lord, we traded, and now we have doubled what you've given us. And their master says, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of thy master. And since you've been faithful with what you have, I'll entrust you with more. Then we have the third servant comes, and he says, Master, I was afraid, because I knew you were a hard man to please, and I was afraid if I went out and invested it, I might lose it all. And the master says to him, thou wicked and slothful servant. He says, take the 1 talent from this man and give it to the others, and then cast him out. He says, you should have at least put my money in the bank so I could have got it back with interest, but you were foolish. You were foolish, and you used fear as an excuse. And so really this idea of stewardship is that we are wise and we use properly both the natural gifts and abilities we have as well as the natural resources that we have, because those things ultimately belong to God. And it'd be easy. The reason I'm talking about this is because seniors, those of you who are graduating right now, you're dealing with this pandemic, and you're dealing with the uncertainty of the economy. You don't know what the economy is going to do when you get out. You don't know what even long-term this is going to mean, everything that's happened, for what you wanted to go to college for, or what you wanted to start pursuing as a career even right now, or what it even means for a summer job today. You just don't know. And so you have these uncertainties that like my graduating class didn't have to face. I got up, and I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated, but I knew I wanted to work. I was able to get a job. I was actually working before I was done with school. And some of you don't know exactly what the future, even if you'll be able to go to a college in the fall. And so we can get caught up like the one servant who only had the 1 talent. Right, that's another thing we see from the story, right? We don't all have the same abilities or the same opportunities. But it's about being faithful and taking advantage and making the most of the opportunities that we do get to increase what we do have. Instead of saying, well, life stinks for me, I'm just going to go waste what little I have. No, don't do that. Increase what you do have. And what do you have, seniors, in this world torn apart by insanity and fear? What has God given you? First off, a sound mind. Congratulations, you graduated from high school. Not everybody does that. It shows that you have some ability to think and to reason and to know. Don't waste that. Don't pollute your mind with drugs. Don't waste it all day playing mindless video games. Don't rot away with pornography. Even if you don't have a job right now, use it to learn, use it to study, use it to read. Read some of the books, read the Bible, some of the things that we recommend for you to read. Pick up another skill that might be useful in what you want to do in the future. Do those things. Take advantage. Learn. Think. Also, freedom. Seniors, God's giving you the gift of freedom. You live in the United States. You know, in some countries, so many freedoms have been taken away from them right now. They're more worried about starving to death than they are of getting sick from the coronavirus. Like, seniors, you live in the United States. Don't waste freedom. Don't use it wrongly, as Mr. Russell will talk about. Opportunities. You know, you might not have all the opportunities you'd like, but don't waste the ones you have. Sometimes you have to take a job that maybe you don't like and work hard and be diligent and show that you have a good work ethic and you can learn to create more job opportunities in areas that you want to pursue. You have to take jobs that don't pay that much right now, just to build that reputation of a work ethic. That's one thing I've found, that I've never actually had to put a job application in. I have, but I've never actually had to because I've always had a job there. And that comes from hard work and people knowing who you are and having that sound reputation built up. take advantage of the opportunities you do have and make the most of them. Even if you don't get paid much, just doing stuff around the house. Okay, seniors, don't waste the opportunities you do have. Wealth. I know many of you aren't very wealthy. Some of you might be poor. But you live in the United States, which means you have more wealth than most nations and most people do. Don't waste what you have. Use the money that God has given you wisely to increase it. Don't just waste it on video games and TVs and all those things, going to games and having fun and eating out and having ice cream. Use it wisely. In fact, you may need to do that. This might be more upon your mind in your generation, your graduating class that we see in the United States for maybe some 50 years or so. That it's more important for you now, with more, perhaps now more limited resources, to be wiser with what you do have and not wasteful. And perhaps one of the most important things you've been entrusted with is a vote. Many of you, this will be your first election you've ever taken part in. Don't be foolish. Take time to know the candidates. Listen to what the candidates say, not what somebody else says about the candidates. Learn to understand the issues. Don't just go off emotion and feeling. Understand what the law actually says. Understand the Constitution of the United States and the state in which you live in. Understand how the issues relate. And don't just get caught up in the big presidential election and Senate races. Local leaders matter too, as we're seeing right now, perhaps more than ever. Who your local leader is matters. They're the ones who can stand up for you or decide what's best for the community to go along with what's being told. Local leadership matters a lot. So get to know who's even running for the local seats. So these are things that God has entrusted with you. Don't waste them. And the last thing I want to leave you with, is this, and it's really just a warning to the wise. And the warning is this: be aware of socialism. In fact, I'd say the enemy of good stewardship, which is, a good steward is a caretaker of what God has given him. God created this earth. He created man, and he put man on earth to take care and be a good steward of what God had created. Socialism is a way in which man tries to get to perfection without God, tries to create a perfect society without God. And it fails every time. Why? Because God's not in it. Just look at history. Did you know that Nazi actually was an acronym for the National Socialist Party in Germany? We see Soviet Russia and Stalin, all the people that died under him and starved to death. In Mao and China, in fact, we're still seeing how horrible socialism could be in places like China. And there's Cuba and what we've just seen recently in Venezuela. Socialism always ultimately fails because it doesn't have God at its center, and it doesn't have that principle of stewardship, because without God, you don't have stewardship. And so I really encourage you to think through that and be wary of socialism. Now, I hope you find the rest of this video helpful and instructful. I'm Pastor Ben Meller. Let him who has ears to hear what the Spirit has to say. Good luck, seniors of 2020.
Seniors, you have had a unique year in which to graduate. Your senior year has been interrupted by a pandemic that closed the school's doors for half the year, something you probably will never see again in your lifetime. You've had to do your studies online, missing the familiar setting of a traditional classroom. Your college visits have been virtual, missing the close-up that you were anticipating. Your college entrance exams, your testings have been put on hold. This list could go on, but let's leave the negative and go into the positive. Since March, I have personally been praying for your class in 3 specific areas. First, I've been praying for your class that the negative encounters would be minimal. It seems like every time you turn around, there was a new whammy that came into your life. But let me share something with you. Every time I heard something as a pastor, I bowed my head at that moment and prayed for you. And I'm sure other pastors did the same. A second thing I thought about your class in 2020 was the year that you're graduating. 2020 is a year of vision. Eye doctors do all they can to help somebody's physical sight become 20/20 so they can see better. But they have many problems many times. There's nearsightedness, farsightedness, cataracts, glaucoma, you name it. But yet they stick with it until it's done. That's what you have to do in the year 2020 and the years to come. Think of the good vision that this year represents. The Bible says in Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. That's literally and figuratively. We need to have a good vision like 2020 presents us to do. That good vision, though, entails much work. You've had to focus extra hard on your studies because of so many distractions. My prayer is that you take the intensity that you've had this year and use it towards your future studies. Continue reading and analyzing books that will enhance your character, your personality, and your overall education. In your library, I strongly suggest that you have a copy of God's Word. Proverbs 4:23 says this, "Above all else, guard your heart, for in it are the issues of life." By having God's Word in your library, you'll be able to deal with these issues, whether they're spiritual, whether they're emotional, whether they're physical. Who better than God can help you with your inward compass pointed in the right direction? Psalm 42:1-2 reads this, "As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, O God. When can I go and meet with the Lord?" A final prayer I have for your class is a spin-off from Lamentations 3:22 and 23. Here's what those verses say. "Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." The class of 2020 can take this a little bit further. These verses say that we have God's mercies new every morning. But you folks are going into a new decade, not just a morning. The year 2020 starts a new decade. You can lead the changes that need to be made, and you can hold firm to the things that shouldn't be changed as well. May God bless you as you endeavor to be the person God wants you to be. And we ask above all else that God will bless your life in the days to come.
Well, congratulations, seniors. You've done well, and we are proud of you. You've reached an important step in the path of life. It's a conclusion, but not an end. Actually, a conclusion is really just another step towards the next step, isn't it? You know, as we enjoy a good story or a good movie, we often have enjoyed a complicated plot that sometimes throws us off, and just when we think we figured it out, something else twists in the story, and it throws us off track. Well, these last few months have sort of fit into that scenario, haven't they? They have kind of thrown us off of what was normal. And we have had concerns about the COVID virus. People have lost jobs. There have been things all over the place. And now with the protests going on, what does the future hold? What does your future hold? There are many concerns that you have and that we have for you. And so we can ask, how will it end? What will be normal in the days to come after all this chaos? There was a man many years ago named King Solomon. Probably most of you have heard of him. He was considered by many to be the wisest and wealthiest man who's ever lived on this earth. And yet, even though he had everything available to him and a lot going for him, he still struggled with the twisting path of life, just like you and I do. And so he wondered about the constant flow of disappointments, about things that just don't make sense, and things that are like a routine and into a rut. Could there be value in life? Could there even be peace in the life that we can live? Certainly peace is something that is up in the air right now with so many things going on. But Solomon wrote a sermon called Ecclesiastes. Big funny name, but we won't go into that. But he pondered about life's exhausting frustrations. You know what that's like, maybe, and you certainly will someday. But thankfully, he includes some valuable wisdom for us. I'm going to read a couple verses from his writing, from this sermon. It says, "Rejoice, O young man or woman, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. Therefore, remove sorrow from your heart, put away evil from your flesh, and remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come." Well, those are some thoughts that he begins his conclusion with. And I'd like to emphasize a couple of things that he does in these last few verses. First one is, keep the Creator in your vision or in your equation. You know, we aren't here by chance. This isn't just all a big accident that happened. We are here because God designed this amazing universe with all of its beauty and all of its intricacy. And there are things that you have certainly enjoyed. You know, we're outside today partly because we want to emphasize that there is a Creator and how beautiful things are. And that He has made you, and He has given you life, and He's given me life for a purpose. But first of all, just to keep in mind that there is a Creator. Second thing is that He has offered His wisdom to us. So we need to seek the Creator's wisdom. You'll need it. I'm guaranteeing that. And He is glad to share that wisdom with you. In chapter 12, verse 1, the second part of it says, "The difficult days will come, and the years will draw near when you say, 'I have no pleasure in them.'" You know, not every day is going to be the happiest day in your life. There are difficult days that we'll experience due to illness, due to other things that we're going through right now. But God's wisdom enables you and I to make sense out of the steps that seem to be senseless. He wants you and I to be able to face them with His wisdom. And He will show us that there is value and that there is purpose in everything that happens. Many years ago, almost 60 now, makes me pretty old, but many years ago I was in a very serious car accident. I was considered dead on arrival at the hospital. I was in the hospital for a long time, finally recovered, left some marks and scars and so forth. But about 10 years after that, when I was 18, I began to realize that, hey, God kept me alive for a reason. That this accident wasn't just an accident by chance, even though it was somebody's fault. God used that in my life for good. And I can't go over all the details now, it would take too long, but that was one of the things that He taught me, was that by His wisdom I could have an eternal perspective on life, and even something that didn't go so well, it would seem. You and I can't know everything, but we can follow one who does. So we need to keep the Creator in our equation. We need to seek His wisdom. And then finally, in this passage, in God's book, it says we are accountable to the Creator. Let me read a couple more verses. It says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is man's all." For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. The Bible throughout it warns that there is no escaping God's judgment. Now, God isn't just a meanie that wants to be unfair, but He has to be honest with who He is, and He is perfect. And someday every knee will bow and confess that He is God and that Jesus Christ is God. So we need to be aware of that and ready for that. Our challenge to you as pastors and friends that have spoken on this video is that you would be ready for the day when God calls us to stand before Him. And as you've heard already, or will hear, it's through Jesus Christ who died for us that we can have this assurance and we can have eternal life. Your choices today will affect your today, your tomorrow, and your eternity. So the closing question of this particular book in the Bible, it says, how does life work best? And the answer is found in the book. I want to challenge you to read and believe the designer's book. This is it right here in my hands. We call it the Bible. It's something that if you don't have one and need one, you can contact any one of us and we'll be glad to get one for you. But I want to conclude with just one verse or another passage that Solomon wrote, and it goes like this. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. And He'll do it well, let me add. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless you all. God loves you, and so do we.
Hi, I hope you've enjoyed the video today by me and my friends that we've done for you seniors of 2020. I'm here in a classroom, courtesy of North Rome Christian School, a place where you all begun. You all begun your schooling journey in a classroom. Some of you similar to this, some of you maybe not as similar to this, but that's where your journey began. And now your journey is moving on to the next phase. Some of you, that journey still has a classroom involved in it. And some of you, you're going to do your learning, as we talked about, outside, in God's classroom, in creation. In fact, all of us will. And that's one thing that will not stop, or at least ought not to stop after school. Learning, stretching our minds, learning how to apply things. And I hope you found some of the things today helpful and that you learned some things in our video today. One thing I just want to throw out there, two books that I personally will recommend to you is the first one is The Law by Frederick Bastiat, and it is just one of the most best books I've ever read on economics, as well as just how the law works in general. And notice it's thin, all right? For those of you who are afraid of reading, it's a thin book. It won't take you very long. One of the best books I've ever read, and it's very thin. Another book I recommend for your seniors is Thrive, How to Do Well in Any Economy by Chuck Bentley. And the reason I think this is a good book is it really just is just down home, down to earth, practical advice on how to get a job, on how to search for a job, how to decide what kind of career path you should go down, as well as how to budget well and manage your money well. And so I just highly recommend those for you, as we've already talked about, you going out into a bit of a not sure economy. Also, afterwards there will be credits, and in the credits will be contact information for the pastors and the speakers and the churches that were involved in this, as well as a list of the books that we recommend for your reading. Also, I have a brief message on behalf of NTL officials that we need officials, and for you seniors that are graduating, you are eligible, whether today or maybe some of you want to think about down the road, becoming an official and refereeing high school sports and giving other students that opportunity to learn the same way you did from high school athletics. And just something to think about too. You know, we've talked a little bit about rules today and laws, and particularly God's rules, and how they're actually good for us and meant for our benefit, and that's how life works best. Just think about this when it comes to sport, any sport. Without rules, you don't have a sport. What does a game consist of? The rules. You take the rules and you have no game. And so officials, that's one of our, in fact we've used this term, we're guardians of the sport. We're guardians of the sport we do because we protect the rules and the integrity of the game through that. And so that's just the way, to draw our attention to the idea that rules really aren't this bad thing that we think they are, that they're not there to prevent us from having fun. Because without rules you'd have no game, and we all like playing games and how much fun they are. And so God has also given us rules to govern our life in which life works best, and we wanted to try and touch on those a little bit today in this video. The other thing I want to just point out to you is coming up in this August is the Be Thou My Vision Conference. Some of you may have heard about this for the first time. Some of you are familiar with this from last year. It was the first time we did it. The dates this year is going to be August 2nd through the 5th. It'll run from 7 in the evening to 8:30. It'll take place at the Northeast Elementary School at the Pavilion. So it won't be in the school. It'll be under the Pavilion outdoors. And God willing, by then we'll even be out of green phase with this coronavirus, and things will be much more back to normal by then. The name this year of the conference is 2020 Vision, Correcting Our Nearsightedness. And the first night, Justin Canfield, pastor at Orwell, will speak. And his title will be Correcting Our Action Towards Government. Seth Macaluso will be speaking the second night, and he'll be speaking on correcting our attitude towards government. And I will be speaking the third night on correcting our standard toward government. And after the speakers, we have a prayer meeting. And then the last night, Wednesday night, is just one giant prayer meeting in which we cry out to God for mercy and for guidance for the country and for our area. And so that's an event that is coming up. Also, there's a couple ways in which you can help us out. One is which, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, if you could just comment and tell us what you think about this video. And if you think this is something we ought to be doing next year or on a yearly basis. You think this is something that would be helpful for our seniors every year. So we would like to hear that kind of feedback from you. Also, you can like the video, share it with others, or tell other people about it. So get the word out. Help us get the word out. You can subscribe to some of these different church channels because there's lots of other really good videos on them. Check them out. There's some series done that are very good by some of the different pastors. Also, you can pray, and that's probably the most important thing you can do, is you can pray that God's Word will get out and really do a work in people's lives, to work and change them to be like Christ. And so with that, on behalf of all my counterparts in this video, good luck, class of 2020, and live long and prosper. Now go out there in that world and start new adventures.